like to call the meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee to order. And I would like to take a couple of minutes to just give a moment of silence for the folks from Connecticut who lost their lives. And I'd like to include in that Bobby Hunter that died this week, with an all-time mailman, and God, what a great golfer he was. And if we could just take a minute of silence and think about those folks that lost their lives. Appreciate it. Okay, the next part of the meeting would be the citizens' participation, and we don't, oh yes, sir. Mr. White?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Bob White. I just wanted to say, since this is the end of the year, basically, I wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Enjoyable holiday season. And I want to tell you that it's been a pleasure to be your videographer for the last year and a half or whatever it's been. And I do appreciate the cooperation of this committee. And I hope that through what I've been doing, your efforts are better recognized in the town. Because I think this is one of the hardest working committees I've been privileged to watch. And I can only wish there would be more people here to observe the hard work that you guys do, whether it's here in a meeting or all of the other stuff that's below the tip of the iceberg that nobody ever sees. I know from what experience I had in this committee that a lot of it happens with the liaisons that you maintain with the various other departments and committees in the town. So I want to say thank you to all of you, because without your efforts and without the work that you do, a lot of things would go unnoticed, unrecognized, and unquestioned. And I think that would be unhealthy for this community. So thank you very much on that aspect, and thank you very much for accommodating me and my equipment on a weekly basis or whenever you meet here. And I look forward to being around and catching all of your activities during the upcoming budget process. I would appreciate it if you'd be sure I get kept advised so that I can be prepared to meet your schedule. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair. Bob, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it wouldn't be a Finance Committee meeting if you weren't here with your equipment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays. All right, Clerk, you do roll call.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Trudell, Mrs. Catulli, Mr. Gray, Mr. Worthing, Mr. Heath, and Mr. McDonald, and the wonderful Chairman, Mrs. Bronk, are here tonight.
Okay.
We're missing Mrs. Donnie
Dominic.
and Dominic.
Marilyn had called ahead and said she was running late at work and that she had an ill husband too, so we know how husbands are when they're sick.
I think I just detected a sexist remark.
Yeah, point of order, Madam Chairman.
I'm not going to argue with it.
Thank goodness.
Would you just record it as a sexist remark was made?
I'm not taking anything correct from it.
For the record.
For the record, we have as long as it wasn't an ethics violation. We have a couple of reserve fund transfer requests that the town clerk had spoken to me about previously, and she had gotten together, and I would ask if you've all had a chance to look at them, and if you have, I would entertain a motion to act on these, please.
Well,
We don't get a motion yet, Larry.
I
I
make
know
a
there's
motion
something.
to, for discussion, to approve these reserve fund transfers
Second.
as printed.
Okay, discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Usually we get an account balance with it, and we didn't get one.
I've got one.
What is our account balance?
You do?
There's several accounts involved. It's in the back, you've given us the,
No, I mean the reserve fund.
The reserve fund should be at, if I may, it should be
Sure.
at 85,000 because it was decreased by 15,000
Okay.
at the fall town meeting.
Okay,
oh boy, Madam Chair.
yes.
I know this is probably gonna come off really bad, but
Mhm.
I know that'd be the first time I've ever said anything that came off really bad. When I go through these, I understand some of it. Obviously, police coverage and you're paying the ballot workers, but when I start getting to where we're paying $500 to feed these people and they're also getting paid, it may just be, maybe it's just me, but here we are in a town that we're trying to tighten our belt. We're looking at things and I don't wanna, I hold nothing against the workers at the poll, but come on, for $500 plus you're getting paid, that's a pretty sweet gig. And I'm not real comfortable with letting that go unnoticed. Now, it doesn't mean I won't vote for these, but I'm by no means, happy.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Trudell?
Someone in my family does work at the polls.
Okay.
And, she does not take lunch. However, the salary they're paid, I'm not sure it meets minimum wage, round
Well-
one, or if it does, it barely gets there. Round two, some of these people go in early in the morning and they're there for most of the day. And there does not seem to be a surplus of workers at the polls. So I understand where you're coming from, Larry, because my wife will pack a lunch, but
We've got a real busy meeting tonight, Larry, but I'm gonna let you go one more time.
Okay, well, and I'm not trying to make a.
No?
As far as whether or not it meets minimum wages, you just have to have a list of all the election workers and what their rates are and how many hours they put in. So I'm not saying, like I said, I have nothing against these, and some of these people I know and I really respect, but, when I think about it, it just rubs me the wrong way that we're talking about people having to cut back in departments, cut back on hours, and cut back on other things, and just something simple like that, in a budget season that's going to be a little more difficult, it bothers me a little bit. It bothers me that, maybe that's not something I need to complain about or worry about, but at the same time, it's $500 on an election.
Any other comments?
No, ma'am, I'll shut up now. It's
Okay.
I agree with the lunch comment, and I think that the organization, how the polls work and the lines are just ridiculous. It's a
Well-
very slow, inefficient process.
Well, I'm not gonna make any comments whether it's a slow process or not. It works for me. These folks I've known over the years, many of them, and they're available at the drop of a hat, and to quiver about feeding them a lunch, in my opinion, is small.
Madam
But no, I'm just gonna, that's all I'm gonna have to say.
Madam Chair, I'm sure that the town administrator or interim town administrator, whatever, has heard our comments, and I know he's putting together the budget for next year.
Yep, he
And
did.
will take the appropriate action if
Yes.
we want to.
But I'm not done.
Okay, Mr. Heath?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
All right, one of the things about poll workers, especially if you've been involved in campaigns, et cetera, you prefer they don't go to lunch, that you do bring lunch to them, because when they leave the station and they go out to the restaurants, et cetera, they get 1,000 questions as to who's voted, who hasn't voted. And in a town like this, you can actually impact the results of the election. So I personally have no problem with, seeing the workers stay there and fed under the supervision of the supervisors that are there, et cetera. So it goes both ways. And that particular day, anybody who's out there who has any information is being interrogated, not questioned, but interrogated.
Mhm. That's true.
So I think it's a small price to pay for the integrity of the election.
I didn't say I wasn't gonna vote for it, I just said it's just.
Yeah.
Can we move the question?
Yes, yes,
Can't make the question to me.
okay.
Understand.
I'll entertain a vote. All those in favor of processing the transfer request, indicate by
How
saying
much?
aye.
Pardon me,
I have $6,000 and then I have $4,542.
10,578.13 will do it.
Thank you, David. 10,532. I'd entertain well, we've already got the motion. A vote, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? Done. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, the next thing on our article is departments. Would you clear, because you modified, you did a great job on this agenda too, Frank. I wanna give you the credit where it's due. My head hasn't been where it should be all the time, but, departments. We wanna talk about getting our department people in here. You wanna start scheduling? Is that what is meant with that?
Well, first thing would be revenues.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, the
That
revenue,
would be
I'm
the
sorry.
First thing would be the revenues.
Okay, okay, before I start, I did have the opportunity to read this afternoon, pretty much from cover to cover. I didn't dissect the numbers or anything like that, nor do I expect any of us to really comment on it that much. But I have to say, my friend, it's the best I've ever seen. And kudos to you. You're doing a wonderful. You did a great job on this. Really good job. It's really difficult times that we're all facing right now, and I was very, very impressed by the organization and everybody laid everything out. I might not agree with all the numbers and all that, but I think you did a great job, and I just wanted to add that as a comment. Okay, now getting to the revenue side of it. Mr. Heath. Yeah.
On the revenues, first off, I guess you can make all your announcements as to
Yes.
free cash and that type of stuff.
Oh, yes, that's right, too. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The tax rate.
Yeah, the free cash, which I have copies of the free cash sheet if anybody does not have one here. That I printed out, that Derek sent. If someone needs a copy of it, I'd be happy to provide them with it.
I'll take that first.
Okay,
I'd like to have one too,
okay, okay,
but I don't have one.
okay.
Oh, it's just you. I would have thought that.
Do you have it, Bonnie, did I give it to you? Okay. Okay.
Is this?
Is this in our packet?
I do have one.
No, it wasn't,
You gave
no,
me one already.
no,
I
it
don't
wasn't,
have
okay. We'll send you, we'll send you one down.
Sam Zimmer handed it over.
We'll send,
I'm just waiting for the figure.
It was emailed, like. a
oh,
week
one
ago.
more? Okay.
Oh,
This one, well, you'll never get it with Sam, yeah. Sam, would you please share?
Come on, Sam. You're asking a lot.
Okay. All right, Derek, you want to go through that with us, this free cash?
Yeah, the first thing is that we did certified free cash last week on Wednesday, the 12th. And if you look underneath the notification of free cash approval, you will see the general fund amount of $1,284,829. You'll also see a sewer enterprise, which would be the retained earnings of $3,512,750. The general fund one actually contained probably one-time revenues that we won't see again. There was in there the 2011 offset receipts for the ambulance, which were not moved over, so you could calculate roughly 300,000 on there. One of the big things we need to remember, because the first thing people say is, how are we going to spend this? The first thing I'm going to say to that is we wouldn't have free cash if we didn't have a healthcare holiday. So we need to strongly consider what we're going to do in the future with it. And I have recommendations as to where that's going to go, and to make sure that if you saw in the Powers and Sullivan basic financials, our health trust ended with a positive balance over 600,000. However, we will make, that's another one of the items on here, we will make sure that with free cash, especially with some of it as a one-time, we're gonna make sure that what we need to fund, we will in that health trust fund. That's the most important thing to me right now on it.
Okay. Anyone have any questions regarding the free cash? So it's going to be your recommendation to throw that right back into the healthcare trust fund? Is that what I'm reading, Mr. Town Administrator?
What I've asked is Powers and Sullivan in the near future, which I believe would be February, to give me an idea of how we are in the trust funds with the splits, with everything on there, and to make sure if there's something that needs to be done, we have that money available on there. And I would not recommend any course of action with that. The only recommendation I probably would make besides that is if you looked in the FY14 budget, I do not have $150,000 going into the stabilization fund. I would say if Prudence would say that we could use $150,000 out of this to move it into the stabilization fund.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the main thing I want to make sure is that people don't think that we are suddenly flush with cash. A lot of this, again, was one-time revenues, and if we hadn't used the health trust holiday, we would have had none of this.
Okay. Okay, all right. Now, what are the Powers and Sullivan report, financial statements? I'm sure, we just received this tonight, so no one has had an opportunity to look at it. Is it pretty much what we looked at in the draft?
Yeah, there wasn't too much that changed from that on the draft that would have been on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would suggest, this is probably one of the best things you can look at. And if you read through there, they give a clear explanation for every part of it, including the terms that they're using, what the numbers are, and what some of the practices are. We'll probably sometime in mid-January get the actual management letter on
Right.
there.
Right.
But in order for setting the tax rate, it was the basic financials that were the key component to get done. And I'll tell you, those guys worked darn hard to get that for us.
Mm-hmm. And we appreciate it. Maybe we should put it on our agenda next time, that if there's any discussion about this, we'll put this on our agenda to discuss once we've had a chance to digest it. And, okay, and what other articles do we have, Mr.?
We've also, I'm part of the good news as well, so I tempered the good news of the free cash with the statement there. However, the other good news we have is that we had set the tax rate, and that is all set. And so the free cash, geez, I don't think we got that till January 6th last year, and the tax rate wasn't till December 28th last year. So we're on a course of action to keep on getting that sooner each year, year in, year out. So it went fairly well there.
Anyone have any questions regarding that?
I have a comment on it, as
Yes.
the liaison to the accounting department. You did receive 2 attachments as far as the tax rate was concerned. One was the tax rate itself, and the other was the tax rate recapitulation. Some of the terms and numbers are hard to tie back to our particular statements we get. What I'll do before the next meeting is meet with the town accountant, get explanations, and do the hunting for you as to, well, this term by the state is actually these terms on our budgets, et cetera. And I'll tie it all out for you, okay?
That would be helpful, Steve.
And I
You
think
won't have to have a ton of questions as to what did that line mean. But I have to sit down, and one of the problems we have is the state has one set of terms, Powers and Sullivan has another set of terms, and our budget has another. So don't get frustrated with it, just give me a chance to pull the information together for you.
Okay.
The other side is probably the most important number on that was the state said that the total levy by class was $32,634,89, and in the budget, we were estimating $32,635,512. So we're right, the number's not exact, but it's on the money. That's a good start.
Certainly is. Okay.
one of the things that we may want to go over in the future is, I got the call that some people are concerned that last year the tax rate was 937, this year it's 1047. How can we do that within the realm of Proposition 2.5? And it is the levy base that Proposition 2.5 is based upon. And I think what I'd like to hand out is just, it's part of one of the other sheets, but I think this will tie in and let everybody know. I think you would have been able to print this out, but it's to calculate the FY12 levy limit on there. And then part of the recap sheet is on the back, which tie in with one another. I think it will give you, if somebody ever asks you about how this works, it'll give you just a good basis to go off of. So if you went
Sorry,
to,
I can't stand, but I'll try to come back, okay? I'll come get my
Okay,
monitor, okay?
Okay,
I will try to
great.
make it when I come back, but I have a commitment I have to go to, okay?
okay.
I will try
Okay,
to
done.
finish. Thank you, everybody. I
Okay.
hope you everybody happy holiday.
You
Happy
too.
holiday.
if you held it up where the holes are on the right-hand side, and it says final tax rate, you'll see how to calculate the FY12 limit, how they go through it, which is the FY11 levy limit, then the 2.5% on there, then any of the new growth, which brings you down to the subtotal. So 31,597,312. You can then tie that into 2A, so under to calculate the FY13 levy limit, number A, FY12 levy limit from number 1 there, 31,597,312. Then that number you're allowed to grow by 2.5%, and whatever new growth is on top of that. So it's not the dollar on there as per thousand charge, but actually the levy base. And that's probably an important thing for people watching and listening to understand.
Okay. Very good.
I'm done.
Yes, Mr. McDonald?
No,
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry.
okay, Mr.
Sam?
Mr. Gray.
I guess I don't fully understand this, I'm being a little slow here, but I understand that it's on well, how it's based. But does that mean that essentially the valuation in the town has been reduced year to year?
You would have said if you're going up by a higher number, by the dollar per thousand, it would have been that some of the valuations have decreased. So you would have had some of the sales that have decreased on there, but the levy base will actually never decrease.
Okay, I understand that, but in order to jump that amount, the total valuations in the town had to go down, I would believe, am I correct?
If you took the FY12, the tax rate, I call it the recap, the capitulation sheet on there, and you took the FY13, you would see the numbers on there. And I mean, the numbers are large. For residential, the value is 2.5 million. And if you looked at the FY12 numbers, you would definitely see that these numbers are probably a little lower this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Just,
Yes.
just, by the way, this is great. Unqualified opinion, obviously, is what we're receiving for this, but I just want to say that I had not expected it to be this good. Of course, there's not a management letter here yet, and I'm sure there'll be some things to work on, but I don't expect a 13-page letter this year, which tells me that we're going in the right direction, and I appreciate all your hard work to get us there. Just wanted to say that.
I don't expect
Very
12
critical.
pages, right?
There's, the management letter, there's still issues that we're gonna have to work on, and some that weren't cleared up that we anticipated cleared up, and there was some, I'm gonna be blunt, there were some roadblocks that we did not anticipate. But I appreciate that, and I think we've got the structure to change this and keep the changes towards the better.
I see a lot of progress in that area, and that's important to me, as not only on this committee, but on the audit committee, that it gives us a basis to start going forward and helping you in some sense of the word we're gonna be able to.
Mr. Gray?
get a copy of
For the record, I would just like to echo that.
Okay.
It wasn't that long ago that we had no figures at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we've made you've made very good progress. Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't like you on the FinCom for the longest time.
You're saying it's changed?
As far as
Okay,
you know.
okay, moving right along.
Oh, I have a question on the revenues.
Oh,
when it
go
comes
ahead.
to the budget. all right,
Okay,
Which I think where we are is talking on the budget,
Mhm.
and that's in some of the prior documents. The local meals tax, you had started combining with the unrestricted general government, and on the new budget you gave us, you've broken it out separately again. All right, that means it's not in both places, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because that's, all right, because you said you were gonna move it. So will that be moved by town meeting, or are you gonna leave that where it can be seen?
That will be right there where it can be seen. It's being considered when speaking with the DOR on there. That is a local excise, so you'll keep it with the local receipts there.
All right, and we will see adjustments as we go along, correct?
I would imagine you're going to see adjustments as some of the items are going to change. There's, right now, we should have, before the end of this week, the October revenue and expenditure reports for everyone. Obviously FY12, if you look at the revenues, ended up being a pretty good year on those. I'd like to see if we're trending in the same way with FY13's numbers. But you'll see on here, if you go down there, the local meals excise tax is higher than FY13 projected. And when we got the first full 3-month excise income from them, so this is the first year that we're getting that in FY13, it was substantially higher, 127,000 versus the 42,000 or 44,000 roughly the year before during that same quarter. So we're easily projecting out now, we're bringing in about $430,000. And with some of the other restaurants that we are opening up being added to that list, it's starting to feel that we can bring that up a little bit. The local rooms occupancy excise, just keeping that a little bit reduced down there. The boat excise the same. Motor vehicle excise, if you look from 2012, FY12, this is the first year that we're trending higher. I'm hoping to see, and actually that number we probably won't know till after February when they put the monies out for it.
Mhm.
But it looks like we're finally going back up the crest of the wave. For so many years, people have not been purchasing new cars, have been putting the money into them to save their car rather than buy a new one. And at some point, we do hit that point, we hit the mark where it's cheaper to buy or more prudent to purchase a new car than it is to keep on putting money into there. So you'll see that we collected in FY12 about 2.1 million, a little over that, and we're estimating 35,000 less than that for FY14, still be prudent on that.
Mhm.
Where's the collection for the perpetual care, the sale of lots? Doesn't show anything in there. Or is that just gonna be under the,
Cemetery.
Yeah, the perpetual care interest, we wouldn't see it under here. We put money back into there because it was taken out from the
Right.
available funds.
but we will collect this year some.
You're gonna collect some fees on the cemeteries and such, the old adage, death and taxes, so.
And I'm also a little concerned with what you're saying basically is the preliminary 14 for the school is the same as last year. Is that something you guys have been working on, or is that just a starting first blush look?
The 14, the school expenditures?
No, I'm looking at the chapter 70 money. Is that,
Okay,
because
yeah.
I was kind of under the impression they were actually going to receive less.
Right now I'm keeping it the same because it was the chapter 70 pothole account as to whether that's the pure chapter 70. If you see the McKinney Vento, we've reduced to 75,000 from the 135. The unrestricted general government aid, even though that's something that needs to go through legislation, I've reduced it by the 1% estimate on there. Right now, I would say until we get the numbers out from the governor in January, this is what I'm looking at.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, my point was these numbers will adjust as we go through the budget process, correct? Because we get more, these state numbers are not final, all right? They will be modifying. but we will see some updates, correct?
You will see updates on there.
And that's when the department heads come in.
The department heads as well.
Oh, what a great segue to
We'll
the
be
next one,
coming-
departments.
Will be coming in there.
Can we set a schedule for the department heads meeting?
Well, we can do that, but we also talked about, at the selectmen's meeting, the joint meeting, we talked about having them in, speaking to both of us instead of making them come in on 2 occasions. How does the committee feel about that? I mean, should we, you know, I don't know how aggressive they're gonna be. We wanna be aggressive, and we wanna get on it. Why don't, I suppose we should talk with,
I think we should follow past precedent, which would allow the town administrator or the department heads to set the dates and we show up.
okay,
That was
I
the
agree
best
with
way,
that.
that was the best way to do
I
it.
agree.
We just need early notice of it,
Right,
that was the
right.
key. And, you know, we know
Right.
not everybody's gonna be there, but
Right.
those who can make it, once they know the dates.
It's in, balls in your park.
So what I'd like to do is send out a few dates to the finance committee. The second week of January is starting to get a little close on there, but I would be projecting for, trying to get the 10th on the second week of January, which is a Thursday the 10th. And then if that's not going to
This
work,
would be an all-day meeting?
It would tr-
Thursday the 10th?
the all-day meeting on there, and then even better, which
When is it?
The 10th, Thursday the 10th,
Thursday,
Okay.
January.
January.
Oh, this is a reverse, trying to, making Mr. McDonald feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, you know, it is that time of the year for me after January
Yeah.
until April, so.
I would, if we move to the next week, what might be a little better and is easier for all of us to organize would be the 17th and the 18th then. So if somebody can't make it one day, perhaps they can make it the next, and we can spread it out a little bit, because I understand, you know, after a few hours of this, everyone's gonna be exhausted.
Perhaps I could bring in lunch.
For me, that would be better.
The 17th and the 18th, and all day the 10th. Okay.
So I will tentatively put in for the 17th and the 18th, and put together a schedule of department heads on there.
Okay,
And the school is the 3rd?
to January 3rd.
January 3rd. Then I believe
Public hearing is the 23rd.
the 23rd on there.
Public hearing,
January.
Yes, and that by charter requires us, the school committee, and the board of selectmen to attend.
That's the 23rd?
Yes.
23rd, yes.
23rd.
Is that at some?
Is that all day too?
No, that's
No,
an
no, it's an
evening.
evening.
It's a public hearing. Usually starts at 7 o'clock.
Is this the one that we went to last year, that we were all
Yes.
lined up on the stage and we decided to go sit in the audience?
I think so, because the selectmen weren't there.
Oh, that's right, because none of the
Yeah.
selectmen showed up.
Correct, you're Bonnie, that's.
I'm absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, can we find another venue to do that? I mean, I understand it's a public hearing, I understand that
The
it's
charter.
televised, but how can you have a meeting with, there was how many of us, 9 of us, 5 selectmen, and they're lined up across the stage like this going, you know, you wanna talk to somebody way down there? Oh, I'm sorry, it just needs to be, there should be a better venue for it.
I don't know if there's a better venue, but there probably could be a better setup. I think they were trying to avoid doing it on the stage. That's probably the better way to do it to begin with, and they could put it into a U. And we're gonna have to perfect it anyways, because the selectmen are gonna be asking for meetings, you know, again. How's that sound, in the U situation?
Something like that, something that's
Yeah.
more conducive to,
The you-
I understand
yeah.
they wanna publicize it and have it videotaped or whatever, I understand that. But it was just very uncomfortable, it should be a working meeting.
No, I agree with you fully. The question is where you find, remember how many people were there? And I think this year you're gonna see a lot more there too. So there was a good 75 to 100 people in the audience that night.
Well, then don't use the middle school, use the bigger stage at the high school.
Well, that can be discussed. It's the school committee that calls and sets the meeting.
Sets.
It's their public hearing.
Okay. All right.
What's happening on the 3rd?
The school is presenting their, they have an all-day budget with all the principals and that, and there's usually at least 2 people from the FinCom that are there.
Well, we had 5 last year.
We did have 5 last
It's a
year.
meeting with the FinCom.
Okay,
It's designed for the department heads and the school principals to come in and justify the major variances in their budgets. And they do a great job of doing that.
They do a great job.
What they've requested. Now, that's not the final budget number they'll get because cuts usually have to be made.
Mhm.
But what they try to do is they try to bring everybody up to date as to where the school stands and why they're requesting what they're requesting.
And the needs.
And they're very good at it.
If you go to that, you'll have a much better understanding of some of the peripheral issues, like info processing and stuff like that go on. So, to Frank's point, it's been a tremendous education.
Very well worthwhile. We're more of an observer than we are a participant in that.
No, we
No.
ask questions.
Ask
We
questions.
question everybody.
Absolutely.
It is a meeting, it's a joint meeting, well, actually, it's not a joint meeting, it's just, because not necessarily the school committee comes. It's basically the
It's
school
only 2
department.
members, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
meets with us, and they're open to all of our questions. And it's a very good exchange, too. I mean, they're very good at answering our questions, and if they don't have a particular answer, they're very good at getting back to us very, very quickly.
That's
Yes.
a really tough date right after you're getting right after the first of for us as far as,
Well, their problem that they run into is that we'll meet with them on the 3rd, they have to have their first pass on their budget on the 19th, so that they can hold a public hearing
On the
on the
23rd.
23rd, and they have to finalize their budget on the 30th. They're already late.
Okay,
Last year, they held it on the 20th of December. This year, they decided to go over
yeah.
1 week, basically 2 weeks.
Okay. So we've gotten into we've
Madam
just,
Chair, I would ask that if we're going to meet on the 17th and 18th, that we have some input to which departments will meet with us first. I'd like to get the heavy-duty ones like pollution control, municipal maintenance, and the police departments early in the morning before we all fall asleep.
I'm gonna take my first nap at 11.
That's what
Well-
I'm saying. I'd like to make sure that we have this.
But that's how I make my bonus, by the department heads give me a little extra to not go first and stuff.
okay, yeah, so we would like to see the heavy hitters early on, for sure. When are you gonna be able to get that scheduled to us, Darren, about?
We should try this week because obviously, next week and the week thereafter,
Right,
we're
right.
almost there, so.
Right,
I would think that this time is going to be a little more of an open meeting than it was last year, and the department heads all day. I think it's gonna be a better exchange for us with the department heads than it was last year. Not that the department heads were holding back or anything like that, but, I just think it'll be a more open exchange this
well,
year.
okay.
Thank you.
I thought it was kind of open.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
Well, it doesn't, okay.
I'm going to ask if that some of them had given me, some documentation and such, and to be blunt, I wrote all over them, and then I realized, well, I'll have them give you guys one specifically during that meeting, because you don't want to see my chicken scratch all over them. May have changed as to what cuts I've made on there, because the budget in there is based off of the end, and they're probably going to have to tell you a little bit, change what they're doing a little bit on there.
They've got the budget that you've given them after they've given you the first.
Correct,
estimate.
yeah.
So they're already on board with maybe not on board, but they've seen.
They're aware of it.
Their understanding. What I did we had them plug their numbers into a shared data folder
Right.
on there. And then I put my numbers in there, and today they were known, said, hey, look in there, that's what the numbers are gonna be.
And your numbers are subject to change as well between now and then.
So, and one of the things, this budget, as we've talked about, at least, especially on my own end, it's going to be in flux constantly. One of the things I'm going to try and do, especially before we have the meeting, if there's any changes, I'll probably bring the updates for Insider, 'cause I remember poor Bonnie going nuts last year because they didn't match up on there, so.
It would be nice to
Yeah,
All right.
This thing gets torn apart by the time we're done.
Yeah,
yeah, this,
Okay.
I'm looking at coffee stains all
Yeah.
over my FY13, so.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Did I understand you to say that we would see the department heads' budgets before the meeting?
You have them right
we
there.
have them now.
Okay,
We
this
have
is
them
it.
now.
Okay.
We have them now, and if we're gonna be tweaking them, you know, we'll have our opportunity to meet with the department heads and go through their budgets with them. Okay, anything else on the department heads? We can move on to the school department, we have that what?
Oh, there, I was just reading down, sorry.
Okay, and the school department, any of us that want to, I think we have to reply, let people know if you're going to the January 3rd meeting, okay?
Excuse me,
Yes,
how do you apply?
how do you apply for what, to go to the meeting?
Yeah,
Do you let Michelle Ruiz in Barry's office know? Is that the?
They usually set up the table for us.
Yes.
I don't think we
We
replied.
never replied, we just show
You don't
up.
have to apply, no, you don't have to apply, it's just, they usually, I just let them know, I like to let them know how many of us are gonna be there. That's all.
They do serve
And
lunch.
yes, they do serve lunch.
Yeah.
I have a,
But there's nothing for Larry.
And the department heads too.
I'll bring my own lunch if I have. One of the questions that came from last year, and it's gonna come, see what happens when I talk?
Pop the phone down.
One of the questions that came from
Was
last
that
year, that
mine?
they never really
No.
addressed in enough detail. And again, I am just from some things that I heard out there, is they talk about, the question was asked about the money from the Target, the Stop and Shop that goes back to the school, and the answer was, well, we use it in a variety of ways. Well, they wanted a little more detail, and there just wasn't a lot of detail how that money was applied and how much was it, because it was, you know, whatever, put it in another account or put wherever. That's gonna come up again this year, I'm telling you. And
Well-
so it would be something, if I'm not there on the 3rd, that someone could ask the question,
Okay,
I'd appreciate it.
okay.
Madam Chair, because that meeting basically is what is the town's portion of the budget. We don't go into the grants.
Exactly.
Okay.
and
We
gifts.
do not go into the
So-
All right,
grant.
so that'll be on our
Sorry.
meeting at the public hearing.
That would be at the public hearing or something for the school committee to answer. Ours basically is we look at the number that's
Well,
being
I'm not-
requested for
I'm not
us.
asking for us, I'm just asking because.
No, I
I've heard-
understand
I've heard it
that, but-
enough times at the meeting, so.
I understand that. We try to keep it focused because it can
Exactly.
get too big and it's a long day.
It's a long day. Okay, moving on, capital
Now,
expenditures.
before we go to the school, we leave the school department. I believe the number that's in here is last year's number plus the 250 they like to say FinCom asked them for.
Yeah,
And that's it. You have no budget from them?
I received as of today a budget from them, so I would like you, if you could move to the school number there. And you'll be you were CC'd on this, so I believe, you should get copies. If you don't, I'll email it out to Donna and she can disperse it.
Yeah, on the last page.
Would you email it to
On page
Kelly
4.
too?
Yeah.
Page 4.
Page 4,
I'm looking right at it.
okay.
It's towards the
No, I'm
back.
sorry.
It's I know, but I think it was right in the back of the letter right there, wasn't it?
Oh, did you get did we put it in there? Yeah, I asked you.
Somebody nice person did.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It's way back.
Where is that?
Ah,
It's a
There's-
sheet four.
So if you look at the
I don't
school
have
number
anything.
now
I
versus,
don't know. the-
Oh, you got this.
oh, you picked yours up too soon. You picked yours up the day before.
Yeah, see what happens when you get there early?
Well, I didn't get it.
We went on the holiday.
Sorry.
It's just, this is their number, and so we can compare that to your number on the front to get kind of a,
Right, my number's in what's available for revenues to them is in the budget, and you'll see their number.
So it's $2 million out of whack, right?
Yes.
So we have a $2 million deficit.
Right, that nice, clean, good feeling we had for a balanced budget is now gone.
Yep. Well, that's not
Can
true,
I get
it's
a
not
copy of
gone.
that? Just
Temporarily
email it to me?
suspended.
Well, this is what
See if Susan
What?
I should have made you a copy.
27.
I asked Susan to
Right.
do. The problem is
And this
Susan is
is
so
what
darn efficient, she
Derek
actually
has.
does what I ask her to, and I don't think it's done.
There you go, yeah, okay,
I understand.
not a problem.
I'm with you.
I'd also like to bring, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is- We're getting out of control again in some ways, or out of, the charter says that this number is supposed to be in the hands of the town administrator before December 15th. So it could be included in our numbers, and we can see, and he would have an opportunity to take action on it. All right, and again, we're ignoring the charter. There was also a requirement to publish those numbers, and I hope that we've published this budget.
The
Right,
budget is
and-
going to press.
Right, and the budget's going to press, it's going to press with a number that's not realistic to begin with.
Or-
All right, so I mean, here we go again, walking down the street, and it's like, you know, people aren't keeping deadlines. All right, and the public's gonna be misinformed. So, just in my case.
We've got a difficult situation, because, I mean, what do you do, fire the school, head of the school? I mean, we have to make an effort, Mr. Town Administrator, to make sure that we get these in a timely fashion next year, that's for sure. Yes, Mr. Trudell?
Since the schools come up with their number, and the town's number is different, and to Mr. Heath's point, has there been any effort for the school to have a meeting with town administrator relevant to some of these numbers?
The superintendent and I have spoken about the numbers. When I received them, I gave him mine, including the budget's message, letting him know what my beliefs were, or how we're going to have to move towards the future to actually work together rather than beating each other over the head for scant resources.
So I would take it that his request for 27.2 versus your number to him at 25.4 is his response about working together.
No, I would not say that. I think mine is based off of the revenue available, and their budget number is based off what they would say are their needs.
Needs.
You know,
Wants and
and
needs.
somewhere, and that's where the difference is on there. And, you know, I would not say that we're not speaking or that there's anything on there. We both realize that there's a tough task to be done, and
Okay,
we're willing to work on
$2
it.
million.
works for me, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I kind of have to agree with Mr. Heath on the fact that, I mean, this memo was clearly dated December the 18th. So they're clearly ignoring a deadline that's required by charter. I also noticed, I mean, there's a $150,000 difference in non-net school spending, and he knows what the limitations are on non-net, and I'm not sure where he's going like that, but, you know, one thing, and it says CC Wareham Finance Committee, did you receive this in your?
no, I haven't received it, I'm the only one that doesn't even have the copy here tonight, so I haven't received anything.
It's discouraging. I mean, it would be nice that, you know, the town administrator at least would have had a number prior to December 15th, when his budget is due, that if he at least had some idea of what their needs were versus what was available, you know, then he would have a more realistic.
It's a good point to bring forth, and to ask them why we didn't get this.
Madam Chair, we also have the situation that the meeting of the 20th of December has been pushed back 2 weeks. So
Exactly.
here we are, we're squeezing again, we're gonna be down to, 6:59 on April 22nd, trying to figure out what the heck the budget's gonna be. And it's
Yes.
gotta stop somewhere along the line. Even this budget also, we're receiving it now, I believe the next meeting of the selectmen is sometime like January 8th. That's the first time that they're really gonna be seeing and discussing it about it as well, so, yeah, this whole process, which goes back to what moderator Smith said. We've got to get this thing under control.
You're absolutely right.
And $2 million is,
$2 million deficit.
we're gonna have a heck of a time again. I mean, we thought it was bad last year.
Yeah, it's gonna be
It's,
worse.
you know, and I know the school committee seems to be taking a strong position, which they did last year at the start too. So we're gonna lose at least 2 weeks of time to talk about it.
Yes, Mr. Gray?
One thing I would point out, however, is that last year, I don't think the town and the school were talking to each other in a meaningful way. And hopefully that's changed, and I would hope that Derek and Barry work together in order to resolve the problem in the near future, which wasn't done at all last year.
Madam Chair, I would like to respectfully disagree with that comment. There was a good deal of discussion that was going on between the superintendent and the town administrator for weeks. The problem was trying to solve $2 million. And in the end, even with what they came up with, the solution wasn't adequate. And, you know, to get a balanced budget, all right, as chairman of the FinCom, I came back and asked the school to take an additional $250,000 and try to go for a debt exclusion. There was a lot of conversation that went on.
I know there was conversation. I don't think that well,
They weren't talking at each other, they were working very diligently. All right, and the problem is it was, you know, well, it's not a problem. A lot of those types of things between the heads of the two departments go on in private as they try to come to an agreement so they can go back to their boards. It's a tremendous give and take process.
Tom?
When
Sorry.
well, I disagree, but that's all right.
When would Barry have seen your number, Derek?
He would have gotten it today.
Okay, so he doesn't, he's dealing against no target.
He would have seen the actual budget today, and he would have heard verbally when we talked about the numbers before on there. And if I may, if people are wondering, or if somebody's watching, why I started to speak about the free cash, they know now. It would be so easy for us to think that that's the way to do it, and it's not. Even if we didn't have the health trust, we did that, we paid down in the early 2000s from, I think, $1.5 million down to $65,000 in the stabilization fund. You can't do it with these one-time revenues. So we're gonna have to be fiscally prudent on it, and we know what that means. We saw it last year with loss of staff and cuts of services, so it's gonna be again. And I can be honest, if you look at it, we're essentially at a $10 million budget for the whole operating budget for the town of Wareham, for the general government. A $2 million cut, it's not feasible.
Mhm. No, we know that, we know that, yes.
And on the other side, this is, and again, I know there was a whole lot of negotiation going on behind the scenes on the school number last year, but this year, they didn't get the debt exclusion. They did have to lay off teachers, and I think it's gonna be a hard pill for them to swallow, to take, now granted, that number's probably a little higher than what they'll end up with at the end, in my opinion anyway, because it's a negotiation, it'll start high, it'll go down, but they're gonna be less apt to cave to a much, much smaller number because they didn't get what they were looking for last year.
The old saying is only so much money in the pot, and you know what? That's all there is, and that's all there is. And if the town isn't willing to come out and do a debt exclusion or an override, so be it. I mean,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, we're talking about the budget. It's going to be.
it's going to be a
Sharks in the
difficult
water.
year, and we knew that it was gonna be well over $1 million before we even entered this year.
Yeah.
We all knew.
Yep, we'll do that.
It also
And we've been telling people, look, it's only gonna get worse. It's not gonna get any better.
Madam Chair, the teacher's contract requires a 2% increase for next year's pays.
Yep.
Okay, that's another thing we have to keep in mind.
Yep.
So that $250 that was put back won't even cover that number. all right? And there's still the technology problem to hold our certification, et cetera. I'm not trying to discuss the whole school thing.
No, I
I'm just saying
understand.
there are just natural expense increases that are, the contractual and stuff, all right, that really, to stay with the town administrator's number would require further personnel cuts.
Well, I think the school department and the police department are gonna be two major, they're two of the biggest budgets in this town, and it is what it is, and we can only advise. And I do know that you put in a considerable amount of time, Mr. Heath, with the school department last year in negotiating and giving and taking, and I'm concerned this year because I know Barry's a man of his word, and he said he'll work right up to the end, but I also know that the end is in sight now for him, and I'm really concerned about this year, negotiating with the school. I really am. It's gonna be difficult.
Yeah,
For you.
I think it's going to be very treacherous.
Yes, yes.
We, in the budget summary, I'd spoken about a revenue sharing agreement, and that's the only way I see us
I did see that, yeah.
getting together on this. Because we're going to have to come to a point, figure out what the fixed costs are, reduce that from the revenues, and then at that point, you have a pot of money and you have a percent split. If those revenues go up, you share in it by that percent. If they go down, you share the pain in it. These fights, or how this fight will be, or how these negotiations go, it's a tough exercise that burns a lot of energy that could be going towards something else.
I understand. All right, anything further on this? Moving to the capital expenditures.
Well, this would be a good one.
Actually, it was very good. I did look at I looked at it in detail, and I'm sure. What?
I'm shocked.
You mean there's a capital plan?
Yeah, there is
Yes,
one.
there is.
Shocked.
There's one every year.
It's never been included.
But it's there, and
It's just when Derek has to pull out the checkbook to write some
I was
some
gonna
of these
say, the next
numbers.
question is, the plans there, how much will actually be
Well,
brought up at the April meeting? That's the
Yeah,
next
right.
question,
There's a
based on what's in his budget. Let's
Chair.
let him give us the good
yes,
news.
yes, Mr. Trudell.
In fairness, when we really originally started with capital planning, was to present to the town what we weren't funding and how the town was deteriorating around them. And whether we fund it or not, you cannot disregard that each year the situation is not improving.
Oh, it's improving.
But at least we can say that the community is cognizant of needs and what they are.
Yes, they are.
Well, talk to us about the capital.
Simply for FY14, there is no plans for capital expenditures. If you looked on the final page of the budget there, where the 99,000 for police cruiser leases, that's gone. We're not renewing that. That was part to close the budget gap on there. We'll have the last cruiser lease of the $49,000 ones, but that's old. So as of right now, there's nothing new, no new capital purchases planned for FY14.
And there's a pretty they did do pretty detail on the process of it, and the the capital budgets versus the operating. I was impressed with the sheet, the information that was put out on this. But the capital, there's stuff that, yeah.
Madam Chair, it's liaison, if I may, but Mr.
Certainly.
Trudell's waiting, so.
Go ahead, Mr. Trudell.
Madam Chair, through you to the town administrator. This ambulance thing continues to fester and keep going downhill. I know you've got money in there for a new one. But then you just told me that there was no money in the capital plan. And I understand the dilemma. The question is, do we have any hopes of solving this problem?
On this one, I'm going to say, when I see the money, if I see the money, we'll address it.
That's fair.
Okay.
And Sharon, liaison to the committee, the
Yes.
plan that you see is, for the current year, is what the department heads have requested. All right, and saying that they in fact do need. What the town administrator is saying is, well, that may be what they need, but we have no money to buy any of it. Or lease any of it, or rent any of it, or anything, so. But the capital planning committee did go through in detail
They did.
what the requests were and why they were requesting them.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
through you to our representative to capital planning committee. Did you review any of these or all of these, and I'm sure you did, in regards to safety items?
Yeah, the answer is always yes, safety, public safety and the urgency. We, at one time, if you remember, came up with mission critical as one of our titles.
Thank you.
All right, and that's one of the things that was looked at very carefully. And the problem is there's so many mission critical items on there. You know, it's, we don't have any money. We have to get by with what we have.
Okay, maybe I didn't express it.
That's a bad
Clear.
solution, by the way.
Are any of these personnel safety factors? Like we had the chipper without any safety devices, so we ended up replacing the chipper, as an example.
You know, I think that's best answered by the department heads when we have the meetings with them.
Thank you.
All right, because, you know, the chief's gonna talk about cruisers, and Mark's gonna talk about his equipment, et cetera. And he did a very good job of that last year. And you know, I'd rather see the department heads put that information out to the public when we have it televised.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the capital expenditures? The enterprise funds, being the water pollution.
We do now have financials, correct?
And the water, for the water pollution?
We've got the numbers on there for the budget items, for the financials, we're gonna keep on trying to, at the last meeting, I was able to give you some of the revenues and expenditures on there.
Right.
We're gonna try and keep that going on there. Inside your budget book, you have the organizational chart in there, as well as the 2.5 employees that Mr. Campina's looking to add, and that gives you a list of their expenditures on there.
I didn't see that.
Okay,
You get that? You see that?
Now, is he going to be adding 2.5 people?
There it is. I found it.
That's what the plan has been on there, to add 2.5 people on there. It is within his budget, because if you'll see, the salary sheet that's provided in there is for active employees, and that's what we have on there.
Right. Okay.
This is really good to read through this.
It's actually amazing how many items between the chemicals, and what the costs are and such.
Okay.
Right, last night they talked a little bit about a reserve transfer to fix something that came out of the, I didn't watch the meeting. That came out of the, so apparently there's an account called Reserve for Emergencies.
If you go to the last page of the water pollution control facility lines, and about midway through, you'll see
Reserve account.
for $100,000 reserve account.
Right.
Correct. So if you remember when there was the emergency with the bridge, we had to go to town meeting to vote those monies out and do an emergency process before that. This is to, eliminate, much like the reserve fund that we have in the general government budget. That's what this is for. And one of the questions was procedurally last night, how to, those funds, how they're expended, so that's one of the things we'll be researching to make sure that we're either, last night was either the correct way to do it or it wasn't, there's another way to do it, so. It seemed like that's the one that, when speaking with accounting, that was the process. There was a similar sheet to what you received for doing the reserve funds on there as well, so.
But previously town meeting did it, correct? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Town meeting withdrew it from the retained earnings accounts.
Oh, okay, so that means they have to.
Right. Okay, yes,
With the problem of the betterments being capped, et cetera, you know, making a decision on that situation, how may this alter the water pollution control facilities budget for the foreseeable future?
If you go over 20 years, the estimate would be about 45,000 to 47,000 so a year on there. It's a lot of money. It's a plus $1 million budget. $45,000 out of there. You'd have to budget in there if you want to do it that way, or if that's the way it's supposed to do. We still don't know the funding mechanism or the legal funding mechanism for it.
Is it gonna be within this
That's not in
department?
that budget line right now, that you're, so.
So it's kind of a, what if we may decide how, who gets to pay for it, the town or water pollution control, then we'll deal with it at that time.
It's an interesting concept. There's a reserve fund in there for $100,000, which would adequately cover it for FY14.
very true. Okay, any other questions on the enterprise? Revolving accounts,
Page
Bless you.
505.
fund,
Page 505.
They're all the same, aren't they?
Yeah, the revolving accounts, we didn't get any requests to increase revolving accounts on there. We still have the recreation at the $1 on there to keep that rolling
yeah,
in case for anything. But there have not been any requests for increases.
okay. Yes,
In it, this is all new. Is there one page in here or two pages that show the personnel costs or the head counts?
oh, it does,
For the whole town?
on the back of, no, in the back of every budget, there's a breakdown of the.
But there's not one page where you can go look at the whole
No,
town.
no,
If you went to the budget document itself and you were at the page 3, we'll let you know that for departmental wages for the town, we're at $7,496,061.
You're looking
That's
for a
out of
head.
the 10.
That's out of the 10 million.
So that's the single biggest thing we gotta concern ourselves with is headcount.
Personnel is for any business, any municipality, single greatest cost.
So we ought to see that across the town on one piece of paper.
You're talking about head count now.
Head count.
You're talking more head count, not
Not
dollars.
the actual, how many
Number
employees.
of employees
Okay.
by, and, you know, what it's been for the last 3 years and what it's projected out, so you get, I mean, that's the thing we should be watching more than anything.
You're right.
okay. Anyone else? Employee benefits,
I'm not even talking about that.
that's what's croaking us all.
It's the first year that our employee benefits will be greater than our general government operating expenditures by, I believe, $700,000. It's not going to change in the near future.
Just gotta keep going up.
The healthcare does, if you look at there with we had projected 6.9 million on the cost. This has been reduced to 6.45 million. That was with the move to the GIC-like program that we're doing. The first year savings will be 600,000. Out of the first year, 25% of that legally has to go to the employees on that. So that move is one of the single greatest savers that we'll be doing over the last few years and into the future on there.
Where can you go to understand what that is, what GIP is?
Yes.
GIC.
GIC,
And we're not going to GIC, I understand there's a meeting tonight.
There was a we're not going to it, it's a like program.
Like GIC.
I'll see if let me see if I can get the numbers here, because it compares what our current co-pays are, what the move looks like, and then what the actual GIC. One of the first things to realize is the co-pays are $5. It's, the healthcare advisor said that there is not a single municipality that she continues to work with that still has $5. There's very few that still have $10 on there. So that's where the savings are gonna yield in there. We'll still have the same insurance companies, Harvard Pilgrim, Blue Cross for there, but by increasing the co-pays and the deductibles, it reduces the cost of the program. There will also be, the savings on that will also be for the employees. So if you reduce, if it's a $2,000 a month cost and you've reduced it to $1,800, the employees' 25% is going to be reduced as well on there. We can't do that.
It's still gonna be, I was asked this today, because everybody's all scared, but anyway, it's still gonna be the 75-25 breakup.
Yes.
But
That we can't change through
No,
there.
that's contractual.
Right, if you look through there, what this does is gives us the ability to make these changes and work with the unions, and it is a spelled out process, and you have to do everything by the book, by the timelines and such, and it does not allow for any of us to drag our tails on either side, so. We look for the implementation to start in April of this year, so that we can even start some of the savings this fiscal year on it.
So what you were saying, that initially our cost is gonna go up some, but we will save over time, is that what you were saying?
No, your costs are gonna be reduced the first year on the.
Oh, okay, well, I'm just looking at the medical insurance right across, and you're projecting, you know, an
Oh,
cost.
we're going up no matter what each
Okay.
year on there, but we're actually gonna have savings this year. Instead of the 6.9, we'll be at the 6.45. And these are the projections. After the first 2 weeks in January, we should have the actual numbers on there, what it looks like our renewal rates are gonna be. We're in a tough situation. We've got some very sick people, and thank goodness we do the reinsurance on there with the stop loss. You know, that kicks in after $100,000, and we've had 2 people that have almost tripled that on there. So you get the stop loss insurance later on, so our run rates are still high, but they've been reduced from 101% to 98%. No, I'm being too kind, 98.9%, so
Okay.
99%. But if we can still at least trend down a little bit that way, because we were at over 100% on there, it's something that would be great.
Right, some of our contracts have reimbursable co-pays, is that gonna continue?
That would be, we would have to get that out of there on, I don't understand. It would be moved out of there.
Those will be removed, okay. So that's an additional expense to the employee.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'll be, for the first time, they will have, besides the co-pays, you'll also have the, and I'm sorry, I was just watching it all today on there, the deductible as well, something they haven't had in the past. My wife and I are lucky enough to have great insurance with her company, and she had hand surgery, which we, because of deductible, paid, I think, $1,200 towards. One of the employees told me today they had major surgery, and out of the $16,000, their payment out of it was $25.
Wow.
So
So their deductibles will change?
their deductibles will change.
Will basic benefits change as well, as to what is covered and not covered?
No, they'll still go to the same doctors, they'll still have the same functions. Preventative care now, because of the new Healthcare Act, will actually, the Obama Act, will actually be, there will be no copay for that, that will be free.
Until summer.
Will there be a change in covered procedures?
I don't know the question, I don't understand the question.
What will they,
Well, what's considered cosmetic, what's considered as being necessary.
Acceptable
Correct.
procedures.
Well,
and
except there,
practices.
Yeah, I don't believe that's been in any of the changes. The major ones have been the co-pays. Now if you go to different types of hospitals, tier 1, tier 2, so the GIC allows for $300 for tier 1, $700 for tier 2. Cape Cod Hospital is I think is a tier 2 on there, and it's a $700 deductible on there. So we have the ability to go between the two and have capped it at 500, because we have to understand that if there's some of the larger care and people are gonna be brought more likely to Cape Cod than they would to a Toby or even going up to Boston on there, so.
There'll be no change in basic procedural coverages, but there'll be a change in costs.
In the cost.
Okay. That makes a big difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one. They will still have the same companies they were able to go to before, again, Carver Pilgrim, same doctors, and that's one of the concerns that we're addressing, because I do understand, but I think just like in municipal life, in our regular life, health insurance is one of the biggest concerns.
Absolutely.
Now, this was, they're not, their intention wasn't to join the GIC, these are GIC type plans, am I correct?
Right, we can
Okay.
now tailor our plan.
For the GIC
Right.
structure.
Right.
But we didn't actually opt into the GIC.
No, and we
Correct?
wouldn't be
But I
able
missed
to
something.
until January 2014 if we wanted to on there.
Okay.
Is that the trend that we're going towards? Or is that something you don't want to answer tonight?
I probably
Can't.
wouldn't answer
Yeah.
it on
There
there
you go.
right now.
Yeah.
This is the step that we need to make
Okay.
right now, and we will have to keep on evaluating what our options are.
Okay. Moving on to debt.
Debt, if you go to page 4 or 5 in the budget, see that's under fixed costs. We have major jump in debt. One of the things is, if you remember, for FY13, to keep the budget balance, and we ended up not having to either lay off a lot more people or reduce their pay, we were able to push a debt payment off into the future. Well, the future is here, and we're feeling it now. So one of the other things where we said, you know, pay it now and just go forward with it.
Yeah.
This also includes, this one, so I'm trying to think, this would include the first payment of the capital plan from the October town meeting.
Roof and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to 75, estimated 75,000, will probably be a little reduced. We had great news on the roof there, coming in closer to 65,000 than the 110,000. But small reduction on
It's
that.
happening this week, right, or next week?
Yeah, during this,
Big school vacation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So when they're shoveling the stones off the roof, there's no children underneath that. It was a good plan, I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Outstanding liabilities from the town meeting.
What that means is we voted some items,
Right.
all right, that we would appropriate certain dollar amounts, and now the state's come back and will, again. And the question is, how do we cover those? Are they covered in the budget going forward, or what are we doing?
If you see at the end of this, FY13, we're projected to have a surplus. And if you went to the front page as well, you'll notice that I reduced the McKinney-Vento money down to the 75,000. We're talking about FY13 projected column. On there with the, I did project the school to have their, there was the McKinney-Vento reduced by that amount from their non-net school spending. However, that is not something that's simply done. We didn't vote it contingent upon the McKinney-Vento. We voted those funds into the non-net school spending line. The one lucky thing that we have is our new growth was $107,000 greater than the projection. So right now, we will have to work with the school to figure out how that would be funded on there. On the town side, I reduced, so you'll see the projection, I reduced by 1% our unrestricted general government aid per what the governor had put out there. To make sure that we will be balanced on there, I encumbered 1% of the general government side on there. It wouldn't be, some of the things that were not encumbered on there, snow and ice. Legal services, I already know that we're gonna be tight on there, but altogether, out of the expenses side, encumbered roughly $20,000, $22,000, which will cover that then. So the departments cannot expend that money out of their expenses, it's simply been deducted out of there.
What's the?
Yes, Bonnie?
I'm sorry, I had a little choke over here, because I happened to, my eyes followed down to the other budget articles, and then I got to uppercase regional vocational. Won't explain where that big figure came from.
Yes, and I'm going to, I don't think it made it into your budget books, and I wanted to make sure that you had it. We are going to have an increase in our enrollment with them, as well as a decrease in some of the other towns' enrollments, which means that our percentage is greatly increased.
Lovely.
That is what the projection from Upper Cape Cod was. So, basically, one of the things is we need to get together and we'll be sending out an email to some of the other town administrators in Falmouth and Sandwich and seeing if maybe this is the year they would like to stand on this and see if we can keep a level funded budget with them.
That would be really nice to get ahead of the curve.
It's, there's,
They're looking for.
and it's not an indictment on what that school does or the products that they produce. It's saying what we can afford.
It's, I understand their concept that if, okay, we send more children and Falmouth doesn't, therefore our cost should be higher and blah, blah, blah. I mean, wasn't it supposed to be a sharing thing to start with? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so if your kids don't enroll, but our kids do, we've got to pay more on our end.
It's a formula, I believe.
I know.
That was created back in the 80s, I think.
I believe we are roughly 32 to 33, so 1/3 of their entire budget comes from the town of Wareham. And the interesting part about their budget, which please remind me if I don't send this to you, is in on there 2008. Our assessment from them was $1,738,608. Now in FY14, we're looking at $2,868,600. If our schools had increased in that same pace, we would be looking at what, $38 million budget or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
The other,
Yes, Mr. McConnell?
I see cemetery casual laborers from other budgeted articles for 10,000. I
Yes.
thought we put that to further study.
that was put to further study. That's not, if you look, it's for FY14 to see if they would have put that in there for the FY14 budget. Normally, I would put that under the municipal maintenance on there. I talked to Mr. Gifford. It would be a big help for them as well to have the people in there doing that. That's casual laborers. It's not the foreman or the other municipal maintenance workers in there. He does seem to believe that would be a big cost savings to them to be able to allocate their resources somewhere else. That's not for the arborist to go in there for $6,000. This is for the casual laborers.
All right,
All right.
all right. Okay, So anything on pending legislation that we have to discuss?
I think the question would be on the meals tax when that
Yes.
legislation goes through. And the answer to that, people we will not suddenly have an additional 400,000 to expend on capital items. That money's already being paid through the debt service on there for the capital items we've already paid. So essentially, out of that 21,000 on there, the 398 of the meals tax is going towards that. So when the legislation goes through, we will not suddenly have cash available to purchase capital items. I think that's the most important thing to get across.
Okay, we've pretty much discussed the F and G, so we can move on to new business. And I do have one bit of new business that Mr. Sweat asked me to appoint someone from our committee to the search committee for the new superintendent of schools. And I have appointed Bonnie Catulli to that position. I've spoken with her and I wanted to mention that. It's going to be a lot of work, and I know some of us are, we could get into the summer, and there are a few of us that are leaving, and there's others that work full-time in that, and they can't get into that as much. But I'm confident that Bonnie will do a great job. Does anybody else have any new business?
Well, I want to bring up, I don't know when they're going to start looking for a new town accountant. But there'll have to be someone from this committee on that search committee as well, right?
If you'd like to get, I would appreciate nominations. For
Yep.
this committee as
When
well.
will you be looking for such committee?
I would say it's going to start within the first, I'm going to post out in the first week or two of January. I'm just trying to think what the plans were. Then we have to consider, we probably would have a 2-week posting on there. So probably right around the beginning of February.
Beginning of February, okay. So we can take care of that in one of the next meetings.
And we better
I'll appoint
hurry, my
somebody.
wife's due February 22nd.
You're not gonna use that as an excuse, are you?
Absolutely, it'll be a great
Is it
one.
leap year this year? Isn't it? No leap year
No.
this year?
Yeah,
The
okay.
kid's gonna come out with a green eye shade for crying out loud.
Okay, do we have any liaison reports?
And the capital planning side, and also the action committee,
Mhm.
puzzle. There's an RFP that's going out to get information, I believe, correct? That whole thing is still up in the air, and right now, there's no money to buy buses, and there surely, whether we buy them or whether we privatize it, there's a huge money question that's gonna have to be solved as well next year. And that's really not in the budget process right now.
No, it's not.
No.
And the last time they went out and they put out a bid, the privatization was over $2 million alone. That would have to come out of the current year. If we buy buses, then that's something that can be stretched out, but the committee really hasn't made that much progress in my mind. I'm not sure when that shoe's gonna fall,
It's gonna come back to roost.
but everybody should be aware.
Mhm. Did read that.
You're on the committee, you could go and speak with him. Never mind.
Put it in his lap, he's got that.
If anyone's interested in serving on that search committee for an accountant, just give me a call, let me know.
I'll call you later.
Okay, all right, just let me know, okay? All right, whoever, email me, whatever, just email me.
Yeah. just a while.
Okay,
Should be-
next meeting date and time, I guess why don't we we're gonna be meeting with the schools on January 3rd, which, I'm trying to think, today is the
Today's 19th.
19th, wow. Where's-
Third is actually, let's see, Monday, Tuesday is the,
The 3rd is a Thursday.
right.
Is there a need for a meeting on the day after New Year's, the 2nd, or should we just wait for the 9th? January 9th?
I think we should,
Should what? What's the committee's wishes here?
should not have a meeting that week.
Okay,
I think there should be a meeting after we've gone through this and everybody in this group gets together and discusses issues that bother them or they're concerned or they want to bring up in the discussion, rather than wait till the larger meeting.
well, I guess my question is, Tom, can we do that on the 9th, because by then we'll have heard the school side too, and we can include it in both?
Okay.
Is that amenable to people, or?
I think that's.
Yeah, because
acceptable.
we'd have to have a meeting on the 2nd otherwise.
No,
Yeah,
no.
that's,
And I'm not very good.
I'm planning on being very humble.
Bonnie's having a party and I just, just looking out for her.
well, it's whatever the committee wishes here, but I honestly don't see any, I think we, possibly we'll probably meet the 9th and the 16th, probably those 2 weeks in a row. You might want to put them in your calendar as the 9th and the 16th.
Well, the 17th and the 18th is going to be when we do the,
Well, we're hoping that's our
all
best
day,
day,
so we're
yeah.
gonna meet the 16th, 17th, and 18th, but that's fine, as long as someone brings it.
Could we wait till the 9th and make some kind of...
All right, we will wait till the 9th to make that decision. I will definitely entertain that, but we definitely, the next meeting for here is going to be on the 9th.
I gotta get a calendar.
I've got one right here, my little phone, and I never use it.
We have a,
I don't have one on the 30th.
Okay. All right, has anyone read the minutes of the meeting of October 22nd? I'd entertain a motion
I'll
to,
make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 22nd meeting.
Second?
do I have any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained. All right, now, and the meeting is of November 28th, and before we vote on this, Mr. Clerk,
Yes,
Mr. Flaherty has been
yeah, I heard.
chasing me around the world for the,
Me too.
can you get him
On
the notes?
He wants a copy of whatever we were looking at, the numbers.
Yeah.
I think that needs to come from the town administrator, should it not? Oh, he doesn't
It's
want
our
the public
meeting,
rec-
it's
I
our
understand. He wants
meeting,
the-
it's the numbers
Do we
in our
have those,
meeting.
do we have those electronically? The actual, what we did on the night
The
of that meeting?
28th, didn't,
wasn't here.
I know, but we were electronic, were we given electronic copy of the, where we were at, the numbers?
yes.
Okay, well then I'll.
Yes, we
find a
were.
way to-
We
okay.
would.
I just can't remember.
Okay, would you get Mr.
I'm 53
Flaherty?
years old, my mind's going.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I just, I don't wanna do anything without going through
Okay, please,
our
would
illustrious.
you take care of
and
him?
Might I say you look good tonight, Chair?
Thank you, sir. I'm feeling great.
I know, you look like you feel good.
Okay, and we've got the next meeting, and now I will, okay, how about, I'd entertain a motion for
So moved.
the 28th meeting. Second,
Second.
Hey, is he the ones I took?
all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
There might be some corrections, because I was writing as fast as I could. I think I had Bonnie making a motion that somebody else made, and someone seconded it.
I will now,
The world's not gonna fall.
I'd like to wish you all a very happy holidays and a very happy new year. And thank you again, Mr. Town Administrator, and I wish your family all the best, Mr. White, Mr. Slavin, and Dave, that's it. And may we all have a healthy, happy new year. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
See Christmas vacation? Yeah, national efforts.